Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have an interesting video for you. I wanted to sit down and talk about some of my favorite products. So I plan on doing more videos of these, but I wanted to start with talking about my favorite palettes, my most used palettes. In my last video, I was talking about how it is that I don't reach very much for the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. And it got me thinking about what palettes I use most, what palettes I think are worth the money. Me personally, I've gotten into this kind of mentality of I'm not gonna waste my money on something that I don't like or something that I don't use. Even if it's fairly inexpensive, if it's something that I feel that the quality is lacking, I'm not gonna purchase it. So I have kind of narrowed it down into palettes that I love the most and I use the most. So I wanted to share it with you guys, let you guys know my thoughts on these products. And yeah, so if you're interested in seeing my opinion and my most used makeup palettes, then please keep watching this video. Okay, so the palettes that I'm going to mention today, they're not all eyeshadow palettes. I do have a few face palettes and a lipstick palette. So it's basically just in general palettes that I use most often, either on myself or when I do clients. So yes, I'm gonna get into it right now. I know that some of these palettes are a little bit higher end in price. However, I personally feel that at least in some cases, it's worth it to spend a little bit more money for a product that's going to perform well. Like I said earlier, I've gotten into this idea in my mind that I'm not going to spend unnecessary money on products that may be affordable, but that do not perform the way that I want them to perform. And in the end, I end up saving money that way because I'm not wasting my money on a product that I don't like, that I probably won't ever use, and I'll end up having to buy a second product that performs the way I like it. So I want to start off with my first one and I just want to get this out of the way already because this palette is no longer available for purchase, but I did still want to sit down and talk to you guys about it because it is a palette that I use a ton. And so if I'm being honest about palettes that I use most often, I have to include this one even though it's no longer available for purchase, which I'm really sad about because I really loved this palette and I wanted to buy more products from this brand. But it is Tati Beauty, the Volume 1 Textured Neutrals palette. You guys have seen me use a ton of this on my tutorials, and it's just because it is just such a versatile palette. It has everything you need. It has the glitters, it has satins, it has your kind of like textured mattes with some glitter in it, and then you have the mattes, and then you have even your burgundies, your transition shades here, you have the deeper accent shades, you have a black that is, I use the black most often. As you can see, these two shades I use like super often. This one I love as a transition shade just because it's a really nice kind of medium tone transition shade that looks fantastic on a lot of different skin tones. And I use it a lot on my clients as well when they want a more neutral kind of smoky eye. This is the one that I go for. And then the black I use a ton of because I like to use it as an eyeliner or to smudge out the lash line. So as you can see, these two have already hit pan from how much I've used it. But overall, and then this one also, because it's a really pretty kind of shimmery shade. So I love it for like inner corner highlights. And it's just a beautiful bridal shimmer. Swatches of the palette for you, just so you can see. Let's swatch some of the shimmers. The shimmers just really pack a punch as well. Really buttery, soft. Let's do one of the mattes, just so you can see. Love it so much. Let's do a glitter. I like the glitters. They don't need a ton of glitter glue because they're pretty tightly compact. So yeah, one of my most used palette is the Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals Volume 1 palette. It was the first palette that they ever came out with. It was the first product, I believe, that they ever came out with. So let's just switch gears really quickly to my next palette. I want to talk about a face palette. And this is one that I use a ton on clients because it's just so versatile for me. It's a Makeup Forever Skin Complexion palette. So it has both foundations and blushes, cream blushes. So as you can see, she is well loved. I use the foundation side. What I like about this is that I can just scoop up product and I have it really handy here, and this is really compact, really small. So I have a ton of products here. I can do foundations, I can do contours if I wanted to, highlights if I wanted to, and then I have my cream blushes here. I use these two most often from what you can see, and then like the foundations, kind of like these three I use most often. The only problem that I have with this palette is that the material that the plastic is made of around here tends to get really dirty and it stays kind of stained. I've cleaned this a million times and you can see that in between the foundation shades it still stays looking dirty even though I've cleaned it. It's just the material that this is made from that it stays kind of like stained. It's not dirty or anything, it's just stained. So but I do love this palette so much. And then you can remove them out of the pans. As you can see, they have like little inserts here where you can just stick a little pencil in there and scoop out the pans, and then Makeup Forever sells the refills of these. So you just purchase this one time. It's pretty high in price. If you're not a makeup artist, this might not be the best product for you unless you really love to contour and blush and you want to have something in your kit, in your makeup kit that has everything together. But it is pretty expensive in price for this, but I believe it's like $40 something for this, which is not terrible, I guess, but you're getting small pans of stuff, which is why I'm saying it's probably more practical for someone that does makeup professionally, because you're gonna use this a ton. And I've used this a ton of times and it still has lasted me a pretty long time, but it has a ton of different shades. So that's why I say it's probably more practical for a makeup artist, because you have lots of different shades in here for different kinds of skin tones, so you'll get a lot of use out of it. So this is one that I love, and I usually take it also on trips with me when I want to just like chug it into my makeup kit and I want some cream blushes and some contour, but I don't want to take a ton of products. I just kind of like take this with me. I scoop out some of it with my spatula and then I take it with my brush and I can do a whole look with just this. And the foundation shades are really nice and creamy, medium full coverage foundation. So I'm obsessed with this palette. It is very extremely versatile and small and easy to take in any bag. So I use this a ton. Next is an eyeshadow palette that I probably haven't mentioned a lot on this channel. You might have seen me use it sometimes, but it is one of my favorite palettes and one that I go to a lot. It's the Violet Voss Like a Boss palette. I'm not sure if this is available anymore, but Violet Voss is a brand that I love for eyeshadows. They have amazing quality eyeshadows. Again, this palette is more on the prestige price point. I'm not totally sure right now what the price is, but I will link everything down below. It's been a while that I have this, so I don't remember the price, but Violet Voss is a more prestige brand, which kind of like all of these are a little bit more prestige, but totally worth the money because she has a ton of eyeshadows in it. And as you can see, again, just a ton of neutrals. We have the shimmers, we have mattes, we have a really dark black shade. I love my palettes to have like a lot of different looks that I can do with it. I can do something more on the neutral side. I can do something on the warm side. I could do something a little bit colorful if I wanted to do some kind of like jewel tones here. I got jewel tones. I've got your smoky shade. I've got a black to smudge out or do my liner. And then I've got my warm or neutral brown shades that I can use to deepen up the eyeshadow look. And then I've got even transition shades. So this palette just has a ton that you can do with it. So I love this palette so much, and I love the quality of them. It is just fantastic. The quality is amazing. These eyeshadows are so pigmented. The shimmers pack a punch. I'm just gonna do a couple of swatches. So I really love this shade here. It's like a really pretty like duochrome shade. It's kind of like green, but also has some flecks of gold in there. It is just so pretty, you guys. Look at that. And then it's just so buttery smooth. When I touch it with my hand, I just like feel how smooth it is. Let's do one of the mattes. I'm gonna do like this really warm brown shade, chocolatey brown shade, just so you guys can see how pigmented. That is so pigmented right there. And then like if you want to smudge it out to like blend it out, you still get a ton of color payoff, even though you're not, even though you're blending it out. That tends to happen with some eyeshadows, is when you blend it out, you kind of lose some of the pigment, but that doesn't happen with this palette. I'm gonna do the black just to show you guys how pigmented this black is. Look at that. Holy cow. That is a nice black, a nice deep black shade, which is extremely difficult to get in eyeshadow palettes, a really nice, rich black shade. So yes, this is one of my favorite palettes. So yes, the Violet Voss Like a Boss palette, if you can get your hands on it, recommend you do so. I'm gonna try and see if it's still available. I got it at Sephora. But if not, try out any other Violet Voss palette. They have amazing quality eyeshadow palettes for your money. So just, I love this one so much. It's just so versatile. As you can see, I like to get palettes that have like some that have mainly neutral shades, because that's what I usually wear, but also have an option to do like some kind of color in it. Maybe, you know, if I wake up that day kind of wanting to do some different kind of colors that's not totally neutrals or browns, I have the option available to me with the eyeshadows that I tend to reach for. So just to change it up a little bit and break up our eyeshadow palettes, I'm gonna jump into a lip palette. And you guys have probably seen me use this quite a bit, but in reality, I use this so extremely often when I work on clients, because the shades of this lipstick palette are just phenomenal. This is the Makeup by Mario lipstick Master Mattes Pro Lip Palette, and I'm just gotta be careful because it has the brush in it. So as you can see, she is extremely well loved. Oh god. Okay. Well, let's get our act together. So you can see that I use these neutral shades a lot. I've already hit pan on several of them. Some of the brighter shades I've dipped into, but not too much. I usually just tend to go for these neutral shades, which is why I like to reach for this palette a lot when I do clients, because of the pretty neutral shades, and I can customize them based on what I'm looking for and what complements the person's skin tone or their makeup look. So that's what I really love about this palette, is that it's so easy to reach for and it's so hygienic than just more like a lipstick tube. You can just scoop out the shade and you can even put it onto the palette here. You can keep your lip brush here. You can see that it's kind of like stained, which is one thing that I don't love about this packaging, is that since it's white, it gets stained very easily with the brush. And I've tried to clean it a million times and that pink does not come out of there. So I feel like people packaging, you know, can be better in some situations. I don't like things to stay stained, but whatever. I love the product anyways. I can put it onto this little palette here that comes in and out. And then we have, if you want to make it more of a blue toned, yellow toned, which is like warm and cool, and then make it darker or make it lighter, you have all of that to mix in. I don't really use these too much because I feel like the shades are pretty much versatile on their own, and I can find something in the realm anyways that I want. So I don't really use that a lot, but I do use the neutrals a ton, and I've used this pink, so pretty. I've mixed it with a little bit of the blue, and I get a really cool toned pink shade. I've got some of the red and mix it with the blue and make a really beautiful blue toned red, which makes like the teeth pop, makes the teeth look whiter. So that's really nice. And then I have the brush here. I don't use the brush a whole lot. Sometimes, you know, because I have my own like disposable ones that I like more, but it's pretty convenient to have in here, and it's a small palette, so you can fit this into your travel bag really easily and take it wherever you want to go. I'm not gonna swatch it because it's like a lipstick. They're pretty pigmented. Let's just try maybe like one. I'm gonna try this orange shade just so you guys can see like the pigmentation of these. They're really pretty, and they're kind of like semi-matte shades. They're not super matte to the point where you're going to have like dryness on your lips. They're actually pretty hydrating, but they have a matte finish. So very nice palette. So my last and final palette is an eyeshadow palette, and I'm not putting these in like any specific order of like any one that I like more or less. I love all of these palettes like equally. They're my favorites. I just kind of like threw it all together, which ones I like. I'm not doing them in order of like favorite to least favorite or anything like that. But so my last palette, but last but not least, is my Huda Beauty nude palette. And I'm obsessed with this. I've used this a ton on my videos. You guys know I use this a ton on clients. I have a client specifically that loves when I do her eyeshadow with this palette, and it tends to be like the tones that she goes for. So whenever I do her makeup, she tells me just do similar tones like you did last time. I do her makeup pretty often, so she basically tells me similar tones of what you did last time, and I usually go for this palette because she loves the tones of this palette. Just kind of has like those dusty pink shades that are really flattering and really pretty, and there's a mood for it, okay? There's a mood for these kinds of shades. The pigmentation is there. The mattes are so easy to blend. The shimmers just pack a punch. The glitters I don't tend to use a lot just because they're a little bit chunky. They're not super like pink. They don't have an underlay of color. They're kind of just like an overlay of glitter, a bit chunky. So I don't usually go for them, but they are pretty nonetheless. I won't say that I hate them. They're pretty. The mattes are what I tend to use. I tend to use like these mattes a ton. I use this shade a ton. I do use like these two shimmers a lot. They're kind of like different kind of shimmers. They kind of have like a marbleized kind of look, which is pretty. I use this a lot as a brow bone highlight shade. So this is a palette that I reach for a lot with clients, and especially kind of like if the bride wants like a really romantic look, this is what I'll go for because it has like those romantic pink shades. And I'll just swatch some just to show you guys. I want to show you this shimmer shade, how pretty it is. Oh, that's like a stain from the lipstick. So we're just going to do it right next to it. Look at that. That is so pretty. So pretty. The shimmer that it comes out is just like untouchable. I'll swatch some of the glitters just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. It's a little bit more on the chunky side. So, but that's actually pretty when I do it by finger. That's actually pretty nice. I might have to play with that glitter a little bit more because that, now that I'm looking at it, it looks pretty. So that's really nice. Let's do a matte just because I want to show you guys a matte. This is like a really nice transition shade here. And wow, look how buttery soft that is. And it's just gonna like blend so easily. Look at that. Such a nice warm transition shade. So I do reach for this palette a lot, and it is still available at Sephora. It's a little bit more pricey. I believe it's around the $60 range. Don't quote me on that, but it's actually completely worth the money for it. It's just so beautiful, and you won't regret it if you purchase that. So these are the palettes that I tend to use most often. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, learned something new. I'm sorry if I repeated myself so much with the price points of stuff. I just feel like I get a lot of heat when I talk about products that are a little bit more prestige or a higher price point than affordable items. I tend to get comments that are kind of like, oh my God, you're not being practical for the average person. But I'm in this business, so I use a lot of different products and I use a lot of different price points. And I find that I get more bang for my buck especially with eyeshadows when I use a more prestige brand than a drugstore brand. So that's mainly why I mentioned that so much. So if you feel the need to leave a hate comment as far as how unpractical and how expensive my palettes are, please don't. I know that they're not cheap, but I just wanted to sit down and tell you guys the palettes that I use and how much I think that they are worth the money for these prestige palettes. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I will try to link any products that I find down in the description box below if they're still available, so you guys can shop the link. It might be an affiliate link from which I earn a small commission off your purchase, but you don't have to use the link if you don't want to. It's just there for your convenience. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.